But what I wanted to start today talking about was just how you're moving on and what's been happening so far, and if you've been getting what you've needed so far from the program, and then what you're interested in learning, and also what you do, because that would be
Okay.
kind of good to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just so
no.
that everybody else can know, because there are other people that are attending, they just don't actually attend in person, which is kind of funny. And
Okay.
I'm trying to arrange times where everybody can come and meet each other, which would be really
Yeah.
nice. Um,
Yeah, that would be awesome.
it's just really hard to get everybody together at the same time, because everybody's literally, like, there's night shift people and day shift people and people all over
Mm-hmm.
the place. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of complicated to get that together. But
Yeah, just
I
let me
might
know.
as well talk to you because you're here.
Yeah, that sounds good. I know my logging on. I said just in case you had questions,
Okay, perfect.
hop on. That was her. So just in case I couldn't answer, she said she would shadow. So
Oh,
I
that's
don't know if she's hopping on or not. I said she's off the hook if she doesn't if she
yeah.
doesn't want to hop on. So, but
Oh, that's
she knows my
perfect.
business,
Oh,
if
that's
not better than I do,
oh, that's wonderful. It's always
and would be happy
nice.
to tell you what I need to be doing.
Yes, exactly, exactly. It's really good to have somebody like that in your life,
I
because
wouldn't be
then
where I am
it,
today if it weren't for her.
oh,
You need
that's
an accountability partner for sure. Someone
yes,
who can be there for you, and when you're down, you can try and lift you, and vice versa. So
100%.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So I specialize in local weddings. So I try and only do weddings, though I'm with corporate event planners this week who suggest I do otherwise.
Right.
Um, I was born and raised in the area, and so in order to come back from the city, because I've been in Mississauga for the last 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
so to come back and see my family more, I decided that there's more than enough inquiries coming through from Muskoka. I'll just try and make that work. So it's good. I have a strong hospitality background in hotels and resorts and restaurants and things like that. So it's easier for me. I don't think that everyone can do what I'm doing. I think you really have to have that hospitality background. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, so I decided to specialize in the area. So over the last 4 years, I registered my business name and have just been growing it over the last 4 years. But I should have taken something like this. I wish I had taken something like this, because there's a lot of holes in your foundation, and when your business starts rolling, it's hard to stop that train and go backwards, as I've said. So, yeah,
Yes.
I do. I can plan with clients from now until the wedding day, or I
Mm-hmm.
can coordinate with them. So, we get offered oftentimes from family, and they call him wedding day management. So, we're independent of all vendors, and we represent and are paid only by the client. So, we therefore are responsible sort of for their best interest. So it's helpful if couples want to plan their wedding, that's great. If families want to help them, that's great. But eventually, all of them can't deny the fact that they just want to enjoy the wedding day. So that's
Yeah.
when they have us come in. So I think that sometimes it's closer to the day, or sometimes it's on the day, where they realize that they didn't want to do as much as they did.
Right.
So those are the people that wish that, say, I wish I had a holly, is what they say,
Mm-hmm.
when they
Yes.
see me at another wedding. So
Yes.
yeah, it's good, but it's time consuming. It's very time consuming. It's very emotional,
Mm-hmm.
and there was an article in the Sun, which inspired me a long time ago, saying, oh, I could make a job at this. It was called Wedding Planners Wear Many Hats.
Yeah.
And so it talks about the therapist and the
Mm-hmm.
mediator and the negotiator and all of that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. I very much understand that role, because being
Yes, with
a
the doula.
doula, it's very similar. It's like the most emotional experience, and it's one of the biggest days of people's lives. And it's really, it's an amazing honor to have the role of being able to organize their most important day.
Yes, absolutely.
It's actually quite unbelievable. And it's, if you've got a passion for it, which you can hear in your voice, you could, like, I can tell that you love it. Um, it's so much better, because then when you're playing therapist, you know that there's a greater, you can see the other side of it for them, which
Yeah,
is
and what you
great.
said about being a doula, though, it's you think that everyone needs a doula. I agree with you. I think that everyone needs a wedding coordinator. However,
Yes.
that seems to be the challenge, is convincing people that of something that they aren't quite sure that they need, but we know
Yes,
that they need.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so funny, and that yeah, the similarities are wild, and it is it's sometimes frustrating because people will say, oh, but I don't want to pay for that. I'm not going to
Yes,
pay for that because that's something, that's like an add-on. It's like a special feature that you could add, and it's not something that's an integral part of that experience. But really, being in our shoes, you can see, we can both see that, to enjoy your day that much more, it should be an essential service. you know
yes,
it's
exactly.
it's one of those things that, there's planners for everything else, and so why should this be any different, especially when there's such massive, huge events
Yes,
in someone's life. So yeah,
yep.
no,
And
that's
when I don't
awesome.
sleep and I'm sore and tired at the end of the day, I don't know
Yes.
how things happen without us. So it sounds cocky, but it's not. It really, people heavily underestimate what it takes to when a couple hires you for 4 people to get married in the middle of a Algonquin park,
Yes.
and they still want the guidance associated with it. I think that says a lot for
Yes.
the weddings that have 500 people that don't have someone rely only on the venue coordinator.
Yes.
It's hard. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And so what things specifically are you hoping to gain from the class?
I think I need to go back to square one and start over again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard because the train is moving forward. I'm
Yes.
getting to the point now where my reputation will start to suffer, or is probably already suffering in the community in terms of response time, because I am
Mm-hmm.
a one-woman operation with the exception of my girls that work with me on the weekends. And
Yes.
so I need to put systems and processes in place.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, I started with whatever you want, and everyone is different, and so I still need to be able to do that and say yes pretty much 100% of the time.
Yes.
But I need to look at all of the things that suck up all of my time right now and put
Yes.
them into processes. So I'd like to create my employee handbook, and I'd also actually like to learn a little bit more about that aspect as well, because the more I don't know anything about payroll. I don't know anything about sort of the liabilities that I have towards my I call them subcontractors, but the girls that
Yes.
work for me on the weekends.
Yep.
Um, but mainly the foundation stuff, getting a system in place. Um,
Yep.
you know, yeah. So pretty much everything you've been talking about.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to make my life easier. I just need to focus and do it.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. It's a very exciting time in your business when you know that you need to be doing all this stuff. Because that's awesome. It
Mm-hmm.
means it's working,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
It means you have
I'm
something.
starting to hate it, so I just want to
Hmm.
make sure, and I'm only hating it because it's a huge time suck. And
Yeah.
so if I know there's ways to make it more efficient. I'm sitting with 10 planners on a bus right now who seem to have a life,
Yes.
and they are compensated. And so I sat down with the venue coordinator last night, and the girls actually asked for me. They said, like in terms of commissions and things like that, there's an ethics issue that I need to figure out in terms of kickbacks and referral fees and things like that for business. But all these meeting planners get incentives when they when they take over a resort for the weekend, for example, and all of the meeting space and whatever. And so I'm doing the exact same thing, but the venue coordinators don't believe in paying a commission.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's a whole segment of the income that it sounds like I should have access to, that the
Yes.
wedding industry is not. So I don't necessarily want to be that pioneer who who goes forward with that.
Hmm.
But it is a question worth asking. So it's been perspective. Like that's why I'm with event planners today, and
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
I'm taking this course with you, just to try and figure out where I'm missing. If this is going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I'm going to die by the time I'm 40. So I have to
Hmm.
figure out how to make it a little bit better on me.
Well, yeah, and when we were looking, like I believe we talked about like revenue streams, different revenue streams to
Yeah.
help save you from running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and not having money coming in from multiple sources. And I know that planners are paid fees, and also for some products, if you're going to choose certain products every time for your clients, if that's something that you would do, they would be there's a good chance that you'd be able to get some kind of a commission on that as well.
Well, and see, that's a weird thing that exists. So it's just something that's coming to my attention this week,
Mm-hmm.
especially.
Mm-hmm.
That exists already. That already exists for other people who don't plan weddings, but they plan other large events.
Right. Well,
So
then there's no
that
reason that you
already
shouldn't.
exists.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So they argue that ethically I'm not allowed to because of the emotional aspect, right? But they do, like, I don't know if you're allowed to take kickbacks or not kickbacks, but like if you negotiate special rates with suppliers of some kind, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you use X supply every single time,
Mm-hmm.
and are you allowed to make money off of that, right? So
Right.
the client is paying retail, but you're getting a net rate of some kind. So anyway, so it's just interesting that learning that the wedding industry doesn't operate the same way, even though
Yes.
we do the same thing. So I need to figure out why that is. But
Well, and I
yeah,
believe that what they would probably do is see it as a conflict of interest because, they don't want you pushing a certain product just because you're getting a kickback in it. But
for sure.
I would argue as well, though, that if you have a large enough basket of options that are similar for
Yeah,
people to choose from, and you're not forcing them to take your option, you're
yeah.
obviously open to every option, but there's no reason that
Mhm.
you couldn't have a relationship with every single person that's out
Vendor
there.
available. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
So
It
yeah,
makes absolutely no sense that
yeah.
couldn't be something that would exist because, as you say, it exists for everyone else. So, yeah, that's definitely something for you to look into. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's
But that's
that's.
probably why that's a steady stream of income because you know that you're doing. If I do 40 weddings a year, I know I'm
Hmm.
working with at least 10 vendors per wedding.
Hmm.
So if I take 15% of the cost of 30,000, for example, right? So
Yeah,
or say my negotiated rate is 10% on 15,000.
yeah,
That's a substantial amount of money
exactly.
that these ladies do all the time.
Hmm.
And so I know I just need to find. So that's another goal of mine is to find other wedding planners out there who have adopted or used the corporate model to
Hmm.
do that. So, but
Hmm.
otherwise, like up until this week, I wasn't really thinking about that.
Right.
I do feel like it is a conflict of interest when you
Hmm.
are working or negotiating with suppliers that maybe pay you that way.
Hmm.
So I'd rather sorry, it's so bumpy. Working with you,
Hmm.
just the basics. I need to get back to basics. I need templates. I need structure. I need to know how to run a sustainable business.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The other thing that just entered my mind too is um, conflict of interest instantly disappears if it is something that is spoken about. And so if you, the first time that you would meet with a client, if you said, I have access to a certain number of suppliers that I use all of the time, and I have a relationship with them, and you are welcome to use the suppliers that I use or not. And the moment that
Okay.
you
Yeah.
let them know that, then they know you have a relationship with the supplier.
Right. For
And
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
issue gone, I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very fascinating. You know what? You're not the only industry that happens to, because I know that there's hairstylists and different people um, who aren't getting the kickbacks that they should be getting,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah.
bigger salons do, and that's just not fair. And even something as because like it's just sole proprietor stuff, right? When you're working on your own and you're not working for a big company, you just don't have access to the all of the exciting perks that you do the moment that you enter a big company.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's totally awesome. And so hopefully we can keep on, moving forward and meeting your needs, which is great. And I'm going to get everybody else to do this too, so that we can make sure that we meet their needs too. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'll be able to help you out a lot. So that's great.
Yay.
So awesome, yay! Um, so let's go. And so I'm going to mute you,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
That's fine.
Okay, and I will say goodbye. I'll unmute you if I have questions or at the end. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start going. So what we were doing before is we were developing the questions that we needed to create our business model. And so we were at question number 4, but now we're at question number 5 in terms of your competition. And so one of the last things that I told you to do was create a list of of your competition, and I hope you had a chance to do that. It's really, really important to look at all of the different aspects of competition as well, because what you always have to sit back and ask yourself is you've got your business. And even if you have something that's a little bit different or a little bit obscure or something that people don't use all the time, right? If it's something that, not everyone uses, well, then what are they doing instead of using your service? Because if it's a problem that everyone has, if your product or service is something that everyone does, in fact, need in some way or another, how are they filling that need? For example, using my industry as an example, everybody needs, or hopefully most people understand that they need some form of support during their birth experience, right? And so some people would say, okay, well, I have the nurse for support. And some people who understand that that isn't the nursing role, they would understand, well, I'm going to have my sister, or I'm going to have my mother, and I'm going to have my husband. And while these aren't actual financial competitors, they're not competing financially, there's no money going out to these people, whereas it would be coming to me, they are still my competition. And so I am in direct competition with the mother and the sister. I'm not in competition with the partner, right? And the reason that I'm in competition with them is that the mother who is giving birth will feel more comfortable with the mother or the sister, or feel that she knows she needs them there. And so when I am communicating to moms and trying to get their business, I need to communicate with them knowing that they're thinking in the back of their mind that they should be having their mom or their sister there, or a female friend. Friends help too. And quite often, they can be a major competitor. It's like, I'm thinking of having a doula, but I'm going to talk to my best friend first and see if she wants to come, right? And so it's very, very important to identify your competition. The other thing too is, how is my business different from that competition, right? And so you need to not only look at who your competition is, but how your business is different from your competition. So once again, I'll use my business as an example. I am different from a mother because I don't have years and years of experience with you. I haven't taken care of you when you were sick as a little girl. I'm not going to look at you with eyes that you know so well and show you if I'm scared or worried. You don't know me. You don't know me emotionally. And so you're not going to know what my face looks like if I'm frightened. You're not going to know what my face looks like, if I'm, panicking about something, because you don't know me, and that's an incredible difference. The other thing too is, I'm not your sister. I'm not going to make fun of you. I don't even ever have to walk through your door again until you have your next baby, right? And so I am different from that competition. And it's important for me to know that and identify how I'm different, so that once again, when I am communicating with my customer, I am able to define my clear difference. And often, difference is what makes you better. So, because in a lot of situations, I have women tell me, you know what, I love my mom, I love my sister, but I would not want her there with me because she'd just stress me out. And that's a big, big, huge bonus to me, because it's like, okay, great. Well, I am different. I will never be your sister or your mother, but I'll be your paid sister with no issues. So it's a difference. Once you identify your difference, you're able to leverage that and use that in all of your marketing. And so the other thing too is, if your customers or investors or your partners can't tell the difference between, hi Aisha, how are you? Just a sec, I've muted everybody, but I'll say hi. How are you, Aisha? Are you good? Good. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right. So if everybody, your customers, partners, everyone can't tell the difference between you and somebody else, you and the competitor, if they can't identify the difference, they really don't have any good reason to do business with you, right? There's no reason that they would want to do business with you over your competition, because they have no incentive to do it. And so when they're looking ahead, they're just seeing a bunch of apples. They're not seeing an apple and a banana, or as Seth Godin says, there's no purple cow. You want people to look out and see the purple cow, and that's how they know that they want to go with you, because seeing a purple cow would be really awesome, and I'd totally pick the purple cow, as most people would, out of a whole pack of Holsteins. So here are a couple ways that you can explain how you're different from other people. You can say that you have a social aspect embedded into your business. Your product or service is for each individual customer, so individualized packages. Your product or service is the most affordable on the market, which can work for some products and services. Your product or service saves your customers time. Time is a big one. People don't really have a lot of time these days, and so it's important to try and sell your customers time. Your product or service is easier to use than your competitors. That's always nice. When I see a product that's way easier to use, it's like, heck yeah. Like when, I know I totally shouldn't buy them this way because it's not as good for you, but, when I see cut carrots or, what I really love are they actually sell celery already pre-cut in little pieces. I'm going to buy that because I'm so lazy when I get home from work that I don't want to even cut my celery up into little pieces. I know I should take a Sunday and prepare all of my vegetables, but I just don't like doing that. And then what about if it offers a faster solution? Just like the celery, you want to be able to get done a lot faster than you normally would if you were doing it on your own or with other solutions. So a lot of software provides that kind of a feel. They always pump it that it saves you time and that it's easier and it's a faster solution than doing things with other programming. Like if you look at TurboTax, products like that, they instead of having to hand write everything out, if you're somebody who does your own taxes, instead of having to handwrite on all those little pieces of paper, instead you have a software product that's like, "Hi, Annie, how are you today?" And it almost holds your hand and leads you through the process. So you still feel like you're in control of it. You don't have to pass your life over to an accountant, which I think is great too. I've just never done it. But but it still holds my hand, saves me time. It's nice and fast, and then the last thing is just a product or service. It's a more, it's a trusted brand. You want to give people trust. You want to show people that you're trustworthy, you're really, really professional, you're going to be good at what you're doing, and that's a big, big deal because when people can trust you, they will more likely use your product. Developing that trust between the customer and your product or service is an incredibly hard job, and it's something that we all strive toward. And we're going to talk about developing trust and creating our tribe and creating loyal brand customers so that they will actually be the one to help inspire trust in your consumers. But it's not something that happens overnight. And unfortunately, it can't be your family who's like, "Oh, she rocks," because nobody's really going to believe that because a family will say anything, right? But once you start developing trust with your customer and leveraging that, then more people will come your way. And it's actually quite brilliant the way that works because, what you put out there comes back. So as long as you do a good job, and in order for people to develop trust, then it will come back to you tenfold. So what you can do is, in your workbook that you've been jotting stuff down in, it would be a really good idea to check to see if any of these points that we've been talking about and things like that, if they resonate with you. It's important to be able to describe your difference in about 2 to 3 sentences. We're working up to something like an elevator pitch, right? So if you're trapped in an elevator with somebody for 30 seconds, you've got between, floor 15 and your parking garage or the main ground level floor. And if they turn to you and say, "What do you do?" You want to be able to describe yourself quickly. So if you could write down what best describes you in 2 to 3 sentences. It's not easy. It can take a long time to figure out. It can change, which is great, which is the good thing about, writing stuff down because, then you can always change it. But you want to compare yourself to others in some kind of a sentence. And the key things that make you more qualified to serve your customer than somebody else. And these things are super, super key. And I want you to write them down so that then you can write down this information in your business plan template, because we're going to be making the one-page business plan template, and I want you to be able to write it down in it. Okay, so it's a good thing to work on. Oops, I clicked. Question number 6 is, who are your team players? And because starting a business is incredibly hard, and it's something that will take over your entire life. And it's very, very important to be able to identify the team players in your life who can help you. They're the key people that are going to make your business work. They're the employees or partners, mentors, family, or anyone else who can help you along your journey, so that when you sit down on your couch and you're collapsing after a stressful day, and your body's hurting, your brain's hurting, everything's going wrong, they can look at you and say, tell me about your day, and actually engage with you and help you out in terms of where to move forward, or to just listen, because it's great to have somebody who will just listen and empathize and think that you are still fantastic for doing what you're doing and support you in moving on. And if you say, no, I can't make it for dinner, they'll be like, that's okay, I understand. No problem, just keep going, you're doing a great job. And the sooner that you realize who you can count on in your surroundings and who are surrounding you, you'll be able to actually run and grow your business. Oh my goodness, my power bar isn't on yet. There we go. You'd think I'd learned from last time. So the sooner you realize who you can count on, the better, because then you'll be able to have the confidence to move forward and move on with your ideas, because you'll be able to have somebody to bounce it off of. And it's a very wise move to find a mentor. And that's why part of this program for people who are in this area, in the Muskoka area, we've accumulated some really, really awesome mentors from our community. And like, the women are just absolutely incredible, and they are, successful women in their own right. They've been through exactly what you're going through, or not exactly, but almost the exact same. And they're there to listen and to support. And so if you're not in this area, if you're able to find someone who can mentor you, it is so important. They always say that we should surround ourselves with the kind of people that we want to be. When you're spending time with people, you want to be spending time with inspiring people, because we learn so much from inspiring people. And having a mentorship relationship just increases that circle of people that you're around who are inspiring and make us want to work harder and be better people. And so it is very, very wise to find a mentor, or more than one mentor. You can have a list of 10 mentors that you work with, and because it's so incredibly important to have that support. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to turn on this. I'm going to unmute your microphones. Do you guys have mentors that you work with that inspire you? Anybody? Holly?
Yes.
Do you have a mentor?
Yeah. Well, yes. I think you're going to be my mentor.
Yeah. And I would be happy to be.
Yeah. You know what? I'm always sort of looking at who's out there. I don't have anyone specific.
Right.
I have paid for mentorship because it's hard to take up that much of someone's time.
100%.
But I do know, for instance, there's an event planner sitting at the front of the bus who might be my potential mentor. So,
nice. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's so important, because especially if you can find somebody that's in your industry or in a very similar industry, because they know the ropes. And just like we were talking about before, with you not knowing certain things and how to get kickbacks and all that, they already know that information. And it's so key,
It's helpful to have people around you that understand that it's like they don't always have the rose-colored glasses.
100%.
People who have been through. So, yeah, it's hard though to find I find mentors within the industry. Sometimes they're too busy with the same industry.
Yes.
They're at this. So it's nice to look outside the industry, but with someone who has Almost like the dual perspective, right? It's like I'm going to someone who doesn't have any prior context, or like they can look at something objectively as opposed
Yes.
to looking at it with their own wedding experiences. I can look at someone who doesn't have wedding experience, and so
Yes.
to them, my structure doesn't make sense. Well, why doesn't it make sense? And that's where I can
Yes.
find solutions.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah. That's very, very, very intuitive. That's so true and so right. Like that's just bang on. I don't know if we can hear Aisha. Are you there, Aisha?
I'm here.
Oh, hi, how are you? You know, the reason that I was muting you guys originally is because Holly is on a bus full of people. I don't know if you can hear the background noise that she's got going on. And so that's why I had muted you guys. But welcome and hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you guys doing?
Good, really, really well. So do you use mentors in your life?
Yeah, there are a couple of women in my life that I talk to and like run ideas by, and they also sort
Mhm.
of like guide me into like the areas that I should go. So yeah, most definitely, I
Yeah,
do.
they're just so incredibly important. And you know, I found that through my life, different mentors have moved in and out, and I've used them for different purposes. And so I'm just so we've been really really lucky to be able to create the program up here. And yeah, I'm always part of the reason that I think these groups and doing this kind of a program are important is because we can find mentorship with each other, which is also super super important because you know
Mhm.
everybody who's trying to craft or create something, you know, we all have similar goals and similar values and similar things that we're trying to strive toward, and so it's always good to you know, share that and learn from each other, you know, in the struggles that come. So Aisha, do you want to share what you're looking for in this course?
I guess sort of like a broader sense of like, entrepreneurship and
Mm-hmm.
like solidifying my ideas, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of like the ways to make it marketable to like, the audience, like the people that I'll be targeting.
Right, and
And
what is it that you're doing?
I'm still I have two ideas, so I'm still like sort of trying to figure out which one works best.
Mm-hmm.
So I would most definitely let you know when I figure it
Yeah,
out.
I
Um,
totally understand.
but yeah, so just sort of like getting a broader sense of what I want to do and like which one works best and like
Mhm.
which one sort of has like where there's more of a need, like in terms of like what I'm trying to like, if that makes sense.
Right. Oh, no, it totally makes sense. And you know what? A lot of what we're doing here with validating the idea and running different things through with the idea, you know, it's really, really good because you'll be able to use all of these strategies and tools to be able to figure out which one of your, I'm just going to mute the thing for a second, which one of your ideas is actually worth giving a chance to and which one isn't. And so, you know, that hopefully it'll be super, super helpful. And yeah, and then, yeah, I can't wait for you to actually share it with me so that I can know what's happening, which will be awesome. And so I'm going to mute you guys again, and I'm going to keep going so that that the whole, that the bus isn't with us in our moving
Sorry.
through the class. No, that's okay. So I'm going to mute you guys. Here we go. Okay. So yeah, mentorship, awesome, and I'm so great. I'm so glad that you guys do have some people or some people in mind, and yeah, that's perfect. So question number 7 is, what is your mission? Um, a mission is, there's two different things. There's a vision and then there's a mission. And it's important these days. In the past, it was very, very important. And if you go to business school, they divide them out and they say, you know, there's your vision and then there's your mission. What I would really prefer to describe it as these days is your mantra. What are you moving toward, and what would you like to see as your ultimate goal of what you're doing? I have a video on here that I will send you the link to about it's a really, really funny video about how to craft a mission and how, you know, a simple mission of, you know, I'm going to sell awesome widgets. can turn into the most ridiculous thing when you're crafting and trying to create these mission statements. People all of a sudden, basically the general rule of thumb is if you pull out a thesaurus while trying to create your mission statement, you've gone too far, because these days you want your mission statement to be something that's clear, that gets your point across, that isn't all frilly and frou-frou, and just describes why you're doing what you're doing. And so here's some examples. We've got Google, and Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. How awesome is that? It's like, yes, I totally get it. It's not like Google's mission is to all these crazy thesaurus words. We don't have to worry about that. And if we look at Loblaw's mission is to be Canada's best food, health, and home retailer by exceeding customer expectations through innovative products at great prices. I love that. That's simple. We know exactly what they do. We know why they want to do it, and they show us how they do it too. How do they do it? They do it through innovative products at great prices. And you know what? I think that's an awesome, awesome mission statement. There's some really silly ones out there. And if you start, if you're doing some of your market research and you're going to different people's sites that would be competitive, like competitors in your industry, and everybody normally has an R story or a mission statement part of their websites that they have. And if you look at their missions, some of them are just absolutely out to lunch. It's like, you do what? And how do you do what? And it doesn't even make sense. So when crafting a mission statement, it's really, really important to be as simple as Google or to be as simple as Loblaw's, because Loblaw's is a bit longer. And when you watch this link that I'm going to send you in the email afterward, you'll be able to see how funny it can be. And it's just, I even like the title of it, how to write mission statements that don't suck. Like, that's just funny. Like, and he's funny, and because it can be so silly. The other thing I want you to do is I'm going to be sending you an article called Mantras versus Missions by Guy Kawasaki. I don't know if you guys know who Guy Kawasaki is, but he was basically the brand evangelist for Apple back when Steve Jobs was still alive. He's still done a whole bunch of stuff. Currently, he's with Canva. I don't know if you guys have used Canva before, but what Canva does is it's a brilliant online software to make posters and infographics and all that kind of graphic design stuff for people who aren't graphic designers, and it makes things really easy. And Guy's always got his finger on the pulse of what's good and what's bad, and he's also heavily involved with angel investors, who are people who have tons of money and just want to give money to different startups. And so he really, really works in the industry, and he's convinced that as opposed to having a mission statement and worrying about it being all crazy looking, making it more mantra-like is much more effective. And so it's a really, really great article to read, just to kind of get your head in the right place around your mission. So question number 8 is, how will you market your business? Now, we're going to go in depth into marketing, and so we don't need, this isn't like this is exactly what I'm going to do, this is my plan, and I'm not going to change it. This is just in general, when you're sitting back and thinking about what you're wanting to do, or what your assumptions are about the best way to market your business is, this is where you want to be brainstorming and writing that all down. Marketing is the most important thing. It can be the most difficult and intimidating aspect of your business as well. But without marketing and great marketing plans, you can have the best plan you can have your best product or best service on the face of the planet, but if it's not reaching anybody and nobody knows that it's there, it won't succeed. Everyone struggles with it unless they come from a marketing agency and they're like the gurus of marketing, but it's something that everybody struggles with. And once again, we will totally go into later detail on marketing and try and figure out a great marketing strategy for whatever it is your idea is. Some of the most popular methods, this is just a general list, and this is what I'm talking about in this section. You're just brainstorming, but super popular methods of marketing in businesses include, banners and flyer ads around your local area, like in your local newspapers, trade magazines. There's all sorts of different little special places that you can advertise in print. Print is not dead, especially in things like coffee table magazines. Up here we've got in Muskoka, we have some magazines that are crafted, only a couple times a year, and they end up sitting on the coffee tables of most people up here, because it's got business listings and wonderful stories, and it's the photography in it that makes you want to just put it on your coffee table for people who come up to visit, because since we're in Muskoka, 8 million people come up to stay at our house. And so it's very common to have the same magazine on your table for 4 months. And if you have an ad in one of those magazines, it will serve you quite well, because many people will be reading it. Another way to advertise is asking for referrals from previous customers and giving incentives when they actually refer. We had a meeting here 2 days ago at the Y, and it was called Enterprising Women, and a bunch of women from Muskoka come here for lunch, and it's like a lunch and learn, and we were talking about different social media strategies that work up here. And the one woman was saying that the moment that she gets a referral from someone, because she asks, she says, how did you find me? The moment she learns where the referral came from, within the hour, she has a signed and stamped thank you card in an envelope out in the mailbox, going to that person that got the referral. And I can tell you that, and she can tell you that the moment that card goes to the person and they open it up, all that does is make them want to refer you even more. There's also referral incentives that you can give people. If you have something that's a reoccurring product they would keep coming back for, you could offer, a 10% discount if they keep referring people. That works really well for stuff like health clubs and stuff like that. It works all the time. But you could figure out a way through one of your revenue sources that you create to make something like that work, because people love incentives. They love ways to save money. And so, if that kind of thing works for you, you could figure that out. Email marketing. Email marketing is something that's still very, very popular. Typically now it's not spam. Spam is something that is very much hated. I don't know if your inboxes are filled with junk mail all the time. What I'm talking about by email marketing is newsletters, or just, update from your company name, and something that people would have to opt into, either on your website when they're just they're checking around and seeing what's going on, or something that they could opt into at a trade show. If you were at a trade show and you had a booth, or you met them and you said, would you like me to send my newsletter to you, or my updates, and then you collect their information that way. It's really important these days to not email people unless you know who they are. A phone call would be better. If you gave them a phone call and said, would you like me to email you some information? Because there is the Protection Act now that really discourages people to create spam, and like to not create spam. And so it's important that you're not just mass emailing a whole bunch of people. Social media marketing is one of the main ways for marketing these days. Facebook is huge for marketing, especially if you're marketing to specific target groups. And so it's really, really important to examine that. Also, Twitter is wonderful for advertising. There's Google AdWords, stuff like that. There's also something called content marketing. And when we're talking about later, when we're talking about marketing specifically, one of the main things that we're going to be talking about is how to build your tribe of followers, people who want to come to your website about a whole bunch of different things and see you as an expert in whatever you're doing. And content marketing is a great way to become an expert. And the way that you do that is you either on a website or on your Facebook page, wherever, you actually post valuable content about your industry. It can be different aspects of your industry, but about your industry, that make people want to come to you for that information. So when they think, geez, I don't have the answer to that, oh, but she'll have the answer because she's created, her website's full of really helpful stuff. And so that's what content marketing is, just having content available to create to make people understand that you're an actual expert in whatever it is that you're selling, or your the service that you're offering. The other thing is pay-per-click advertising like Google AdWords. They're not as effective because there aren't photos. People are really, really into photos now. But you know what? Google AdWords do work. It's not very expensive. It's always worth, a shot because the ad campaigns aren't that expensive. And we'll talk about them more specifically, and I'll show you how they work a couple weeks down the line. I mentioned a whole whack of stuff, and it could be like, oh my gosh, that would take me years and days, and it would be absolutely crazy for me to do all that. But it's important to, when you're thinking about it, know that you'll just be trying 2 or 3 of the above, like the things that I mentioned. Because if you don't, like if you're expecting to do an Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, banners, a newsletter, and do content marketing, well, all of those things would be things that would be very, very good for your business. Doing it all at once would make your head explode because it's a heck of a lot of work. And the most important thing about marketing in general is that you don't want to start something and then let it fizzle. Whatever you choose, whether it's just Twitter or just content marketing or just Facebook, whatever you choose to do, you want to do it, and you want to do it well, because then that develops trust and it makes people think that you're absolutely awesome. But what that means, though, quite honestly, is it can't necessarily be everything, right? Because we're only one person. Now, you can pay people to run your social media campaigns, but that does cost a lot of money because it's a lot of work. And so we'll talk about scheduling and all sorts of stuff that you can do to try and, like over a month period, to try and make sure you're hitting every avenue, and strategies of how to make that happen. But it can seem very overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming. So, but we'll try and figure that all out. I love this. This is a Russian proverb. It's if you chase 2 rabbits, you will not catch either one. And that really, really applies to social media and just marketing in general, because, you need to just pick a rabbit and chase it. It also applies to niches. In the beginning, especially when you're trying to develop a specific niche that you're going to be targeting, like a target customer, it's hard to chase 2 rabbits. And catch one, and and catch either of them. So it is always a good strategy to just chase 1 rabbit at a time. Doesn't mean, like, if you chase 1, you'll catch it, and then you can go after the next rabbit. But 2 rabbits never lead to a catch. Question 9, what is your projected revenue? So let's talk money. This is one of the hardest things for a lot of people. I'm going to be sending you a template that you'll be able to work on and check out. There's also a lot of different things online that we'll be dealing with in more detail when we move forward, when we actually get into the finances part. But you can do a general financial overview in a non-scary way that you can actually tackle without too much effort. So one of the biggest things to keep in mind, and I can't stress that enough, but you need to really, really figure out how much money your business plans to make. Like, what are the projected sales? Because unless you've thought of this, you won't know whether or not your business idea is worthwhile. So your sales forecast truly is the backbone of your business plan. People measure a business and its growth by its sales, and your sales forecast is what sets the standard for what you're going to put out, like how much stuff you're going to buy, if you're going to buy equipment. If you don't think you're going to have very many sales, you're not going to want to outlay a whole bunch of money. It will also let you monitor how well you're doing in terms of your profit, which is profit is what you bring in, the money you bring in, or your revenue, versus what you've already had to put out. So if I'm selling a hot dog, I had to buy the bun, the hot dog, and wherever it is I'm selling them. And then the people give me money for my hot dog, and whatever the difference is between all of the costs of making and selling the hot dog, and then selling the hot dog, and then the money that people give me for the hot dog, the difference between the two of those, like one minus the other, equals my profit. When it comes to forecasting sales, you don't want to fall into the trap that says forecasting takes training and math and advanced degrees, because it really doesn't. It's pluses and minuses. It's very simple stuff. You can either do it in a spreadsheet or you can do it with a little calculator and just write it down by hand. It's mainly educated guessing. And what educated guessing means is just, you just guess how much you might make, and you want to be pretty conservative about it. You don't want to say, I'm going to sell 10 billion widgets if it's like, elephant's shoes or something that obviously would only appeal to a certain market. So you want to create a conservative, educated guess. And no one, even if you're going to banks for money or if you're going to a family for money, they don't expect it to be perfect, and neither should you. It just needs to be reasonable. And there's no business owner on the planet who isn't qualified to forecast their sales. You don't need a business degree or an accountant certification. All you need is common sense. You need to know your product, or your service. You need to research the factors in the market, like what other people charge for their services or product. That's a really great way to know, what the average price of your stuff that you should be selling is. You can compare it to other people. And then you need the motivation to make educated guesses. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure that you guys both know what the site Etsy is. Etsy is a site where people buy and sell typically things that they create. When we're talking about sales forecasting in more specifics, I'll actually take you through and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But during market research, I was actually dealing with another girl who makes some handmade products, and she said, how can I know how much people are making who make the same stuff that I make? And even on Etsy, you're able to see when the person opened their store, how many units they sold, what the item is that they sell the most of. So the moment you have that kind of information, you can know how much they sell. They've sold in the past couple years, or an average per year. And so if you can get any of that kind of information about what you do, even if you just do market research in terms of even contacting your competitors and pretending you're somebody else, if you can find any of that information to help guide what you're planning on doing, it just makes it all the better. Your sales forecast in a business plan should show month-by-month sales for the next 12 months. We'll go over this again, but if you're doing just a mock-up for this one-page business plan, it should show the next 12 months at least, and then the following years up to 5 years. That's a really good way. And all you do is you keep on it's just addition and subtraction. You just add the revenue, you have the revenue minus your expenses, and you get to your profit. And it can be as simple as that. When you look at your expenses, your expense items might change a bit, like if you're thinking of buying more product or whatever that is. And so that might change a little when you're doing your pluses and minuses. And hopefully you'll think that more people will buy your stuff. And so that's how the numbers will change while you're doing those calculations. Once again, try and do it simply. And then what we'll do is we'll go through it in a spreadsheet together further on when we're actually doing our sales forecasting. 3 years is generally enough for most business plans, but for me, I think that 5 years is just a little bit more thorough and not that much harder to create. It's only 2 more years. And you're just doing it yearly at that point. You're not even looking at month to month. If you have more than one line of sales, show each line of sales separately. So when we were talking about revenue sources, say you have one revenue source that comes from consultations, the next source that comes from a specific product that you sell, a next source that comes from, I have no idea what, whatever the other things that you could sell are. For me, it would be my actual birth. Then I have postpartum, then I have classes, then I have gowns, then I have my breastfeeding consultations, a line for every single one, and then add them up. And if they say not to go over 10, but currently when you're creating a new thing or you're trying to figure stuff out, you want as many lines as you possibly can have, because then you can see how for an example, with me, I'm not doing births right now. And so in terms of my sales forecasting, it's very different because I don't have that line. I've completely removed that line, and I can see how it's affected everything else. If it was just a huge consolidated amount, I wouldn't be able to see why my revenue has changed. I would know mentally, but I couldn't show that to anybody else on paper, which is what I want to be able to do. And remember, this is all business planning. It's not accounting. So it has to be reasonable, but it doesn't have to be in too much detail. Like if you're buying a pack of pencils as office supplies, you don't have to write down pencils. You can just put office supplies and have a specific amount for that. So here are some tips to get you started. The number one thing you want to do is you want to develop a unit sales projection, whether this is a unit of service or a unit of sales, where you can start, you can start knowing based on a specific product how much you're going to make, whether you make 10, 20, 30, 40, or whatever that is. You can plug in any amount and know how that's impacted when you just add one. So you want to develop a unit sales projection. You can use past data if you have it. If you've already sold some of what you're offering, then you can look back and use that past data. If you can't, that's when you want to use your competitors. You want to use factors for a new product. So what that means is if you are introducing something that's new, say in year 2, because you've been waiting and that's when you want to introduce it, there's no excuse for not having a sales forecast for that product. You don't know what's going to happen specifically, but you can always draft a possible sales forecast for that. So you want to factor in the new products because nobody knows what the future holds, but you can just guess. You don't have it be a barrier to not producing or not adding it to the plan. So you want to break it down. You want to think about what your important components are of sales, and you want to complete all the new products that you're going to be adding, and then you'll really, really have a good idea of what your actual sales could look like and what you're going to be having as revenue sources in those sales. And then you want to break the purchases down into actual factors. So for example, if you have a restaurant and you know that you've got a whole list of the dishes that you're going to offer and how much they'll cost and how many you think that they'll sell. You can then break it even down further for yourself in terms of number of tables that are occupied at different hours and how much you think that those revenue per table, if they eat this, this, and this, how much per table you think you're going to be bringing in. And the reason to be looking at sales forecasts like that is so that you can have an idea, like what if I have a night where only 4 tables are full or 3 tables are full? What's that going to look like? Just so that you know. And then you could even break it down in terms of square footage. You know, I'll be able to fit this many tables into this square footage. And so, you know, I need at least 1,000 square feet to be able to make any money. It's important stuff to think about. You also want to project prices, like what you're going to be offering in terms of what you're going to be charging people. If you can't project your prices, there's no real point in doing it. And, then you can actually look at it and say, okay, I think I'm going to be charging $11.99 for this specific service or project, or $299 if we're talking services. What would be the impact of me charging $50 more? Or what would be the impact of me charging $50 less? How will that affect all of the other numbers? Because I might be able to suddenly make a profit if I charge $50 more. Do I think my market will bear that? Does anybody else do it? Is this something that makes sense? Or do I need to, I'm already charging more than everybody else in the market. And so would that just make things completely out of whack? Your average unit cost is also super important. If you've got a basket of products and you don't, want to break them all down, like I was talking about with Etsy, you can take your average unit cost to make a sales forecast, and that's not a problem. We're looking for your gross margin, which is just sales less your costs at this point. So it's not too complicated, okay? And so this is just a general overview of where you're at, and then we'll get into more detail later. It's important to know that your cost of sales, like the cost of the things that you bring in and your equipment and everything, isn't the same as salespeople or advertising. We count that differently, but that's even more reason to break it all down so that we can put it where it needs to go when we're doing our calculations later on, when we're talking about specific, templates and stuff for sales forecasting. Um, and then you want to calculate your cost of sales. And so, like, how much does it cost to sell this one unit of service? To do a single wedding, for example, how much is it costing you to do that? And what are the details and the breakdowns of all that? And it really, really gives you a great idea of where you're at in terms of profit or loss. Something's bringing you a loss, and you'll actually be able to identify it because you'll be able to see it written down. Of course, not all businesses fit easily into unit sales models or service sales models. You might have to lump it all in and just project the sales dollars, which is fine. You just need to be able to explain why you're doing it that way. So a taxi business might just estimate the number of fares as its sale forecast and then estimate the gas and the maintenance and stuff like that. But they can't actually really be specific about any of that because it's too complicated. Or a graphic artist might stick with the simple dollar value of the project cost. And then the project, they'll be able to forecast the sales, and then the project cost just being photocopies, colors, proofs. It's a lot harder to estimate how many hours of time. So you just do it generally. It's your plan, so you have to make the decisions that are best in terms of how you're going to forecast the sales. So for homework next Wednesday, what I want you to do, we don't have class on Monday because it's Thanksgiving Monday, so we're not meeting until next Wednesday at 9:30. And so what I'd like you to accomplish for next Wednesday is I'd like you to try and finish your one-page business plan. If it's a couple of ideas that you're working on, like Aisha, you said, try and take one of your ideas and fit it into the plan. Even if it's something that you don't think you're going to do, fit it into the plan, because that's how you're going to figure out whether you have a good idea or not, okay? And so try and complete that. I'm going to send you a bunch of reading again. It just covers everything that we've talked about in a bit more detail. I want you to read what I send you, and then you also just get to have an awesome weekend. So I'm unmuting you now, so we'll hear the bus. I wish you guys the best weekend. Do you have any questions about what we talked about?
Not necessarily about what we talked about, but I do the reading, and then I listen to you. Are you reading off of, because I've never been able to log into the GoToMeeting?
Okay.
Do you have slides or anything that you're going through?
I do. Would you like me to send them to you?
That would be amazing. Slides or recordings or something so that at least I can go back and
yes.
Just go through it again. Yeah.
I can 100% do that. Aisha, would you like me to send them to you as well? If she's there. Hello? I just will. I'll send them to her as well. No, that's perfect. Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. No
that
problem
would be great.
at all.
I just know I'll be able to, I'd like to go back through before I submit my one-pagers, just because I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything this time around.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Good stuff. Yeah, definitely. I will 100% do that. So have an awesome weekend.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be a busy one, but it's I don't think there are any other times, so I just got to keep going.
Exactly. Well, I wish you all of the best.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
All right.
See you on Tuesday?
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday, sorry. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye, Annie.
Aisha, are you still there? Are you still there, Aisha? I can't hear you. Okay, well, I wish you the best weekend too. So we're back together again on Wednesday at 9:30, and I'll send you all the information. I'll send you the PowerPoints, and I'll also send you the recordings, or I'll send a login. I think I'm going to drop them onto a website. So I want you to have the best weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, Aisha.